Countries announced additional support for Ukraine in its war with Russia. India slammed the unfounded and baseless comments made by the UN's human rights chief, who mentioned Kashmir and Manipur in his global update. A high-level Belgium delegation is in India until the 8th of March. Our Prime Minister is expected to meet the Princess of Belgium. Donald Trump's insistence that 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico would go into effect today has triggered a rapid slide in the US stock market. In fact, global markets tank as Trump tariffs dent sentiment. Japan has deployed more than 2,000 firefighters to battle the country's biggest forest fire in 3 decades. Well, a big focus. US President Donald Trump has suspended military aid to Ukraine as per reports, sharply escalating pressure on Kyiv to agree to peace negotiations with Russia. Now, this move comes just days after that stunning public clash between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump, who is seeking a rapid end to this current war. But this reported pause, including weapons in transit, and has left many wondering what this could mean for the embattled Ukrainian forces. But this freeze is actually more than just a strategic timeout. It is a harsh reminder of the fragile balance of power, where one misstep could tip the scales. But the big questions now remain: will Ukraine's leaders heed Trump's call, or will they find themselves standing alone on the front lines? This is a big deal because US military aid to Ukraine has stopped $60 billion since Russia invaded in 2022, thanks to the previous administration in the US. That has all rapidly changed overnight since Trump 2.0 took office. Donald Trump has suspended military aid to Ukraine, sharply escalating pressure on Ukraine to agree to peace negotiations with Russia. And as I mentioned, this move comes just days after that outrageous public clash between the Ukrainian president and the US president, who is seeking a rapid end to the war. The reported pause is said to include weapons in transit, and many analysts and geopolitical watchers are wondering what this could mean for the embattled Ukrainian forces, what this could mean for the future of Ukraine, and what this could mean for Zelensky's political future as well. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali has been tracking the finer details for us. He joins us live at the moment. Ghazali, any reaction from the White House yet? And what does this really mean for Ukraine and Zelensky?
See, for Zelensky and Ukraine, it means a big loss, because for the last 1 week since he met President Trump and his advances, and we saw the kind of exchange he had in the White House in front of J.D. Vance and President Trump. And after that, repeatedly, he did try to do some damage control by issuing statements that he wants to have support from the United States and he wants peace. But perhaps Mr. Trump was not convinced with his stance of not agreeing to whatever terms and conditions for peace which Mr. Trump and the United States were trying to put up. And in response to that, he went ahead to the summit in the United Kingdom, where other European leaders kept backing him that they will give him aid and they will provide him aid. But if you go through the figures of aid what Ukraine is getting in the last 3 years, it is around 10 to 12% of military aid, which United States is giving it to Ukraine, includes all the lethal weapons, though Europe and other Western nations are trying to replace it by increasing the aid for Ukraine. But most of the lethal weapons through which Ukraine has managed to sustain this war will not be getting delivered from the United States anymore. And perhaps even if UK or other countries, all those who participated in that summit yesterday, day before yesterday, where they announced that they will increase the aid for Ukraine, even if they try to replace it, perhaps it will not be enough for Ukraine to sustain this war with those weapons, which is usually gets from United States. So it's a big setback, because even after having that verbal spat with Mr. Trump and J.D. Vance and other officials of the Trump administration on that particular day in Oval Office, Now it appears that Mr. Trump is really upset with the way that exchange took place. And after this decision, perhaps it is a ploy from the United States to put more pressure on Zelensky and the Ukraine administration to ensure that they agree to the terms and conditions for peace. Else, more restrictions, more stringent steps may be taken by Mr. Trump.
Ghazali, as always, thanks so much for joining us with the lowdown. By the way, a statement by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying a deal to end the war with Russia was very far away did draw a furious response by Donald Trump. In fact, the US president said in a social media post that America will not put up with it for much longer, before accusing Zelensky of not wanting peace and before pausing all military aid. But Britain and France said they were working on a European-led solution to the war. But Donald Trump, meanwhile, paused all military aid to Ukraine just days after he had a disastrous Oval Office meeting with the Ukrainian president. In fact, France, Britain, and potentially other European countries have offered to send troops to Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire, but they say that they would want support from the United States, a proposal referred to as a backstop. By the way, France floated a proposal for a month-long initial truce that could pave the way for peace talks. European countries led by Britain and France are looking at options for a peace proposal, including Ukraine after last week's Oval Office rupture between Trump and Zelensky. Well, in other crucial news, US President Donald Trump's insistence that 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico would go into effect at midnight has triggered a rapid slide in the US stock market. It's not just the US stock market that's feeling the tremors. Global markets have tanked as Trump tariffs dent sentiment. Trump said there was no room left for either country to avoid the planned hikes, which were initially delayed after both offered concessions. But Trump allies have argued that the president's mercurial trade policy approach is effective in that it keeps the rest of the world on its toes. But many economists believe raising duties will backfire and hurt GDP growth. But Monday's tumble, the S&P 500 marked its worst day since December, extended February's rout, which saw the three major indexes notch losses. Meanwhile, Canada has hit back at Trump, warning retaliatory tariffs to the tune of a whopping $150 billion. Just listen in to what the Canadian Foreign Affairs Minister had to say regarding the tariffs.
Let's be clear. If Trump is imposing tariffs, we're ready. We are ready with $155 billion worth of tariffs, and we're ready with the first tranche of tariffs, which is $30 billion, which is already known.
Mr. Trump has said publicly just now 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. No, quote, no room left for Mexico or Canada. They're all set. They go into effect tomorrow. Is Canada just stuck bracing for impact at this point, Minister?
So we are ready. And of course, I'll have a conversation with the Prime Minister when he lands, because he's coming from London. And I'm going into a cabinet room right now to talk with my colleagues about the Canada-US relation.
My colleague Maha Siddiqui has been tracking all the latest developments. She joins us live at the moment. Maha, so Trump has confirmed that tariffs are all set and are going into effect today as planned. Canada seems to indicate that retaliatory tariffs are on the radar as well.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, this is virtually the beginning of a trade war in North America, considering that Canada had already said, and we just heard the minister there saying that this tariff from the US will be matched dollar for dollar, which means that Canada will be taking action, swift action, and will be deploying their strategy, which is retaliatory tariffs against the US to the tune of $155 billion. And this clearly means that things in the United States, products in the United States are going is also going to impact Canada now, as we are seeing Canada sticking to their stand that they will impose retaliatory tariffs. Now, the last time around when Donald Trump had imposed steel and aluminum tariffs against Canada during his previous tenure in 2018, then Canada had very strategically placed reciprocal tariffs on, for instance, I'll give you an example. One of the reciprocal tariffs was against yogurt that was entirely coming from one state in Wisconsin, which was the constituency of Paul Ryan, a Republican. And therefore, by these strategic measures, Canada was able to get the U.S. administration to step back on their tariffs. But this time around, it's coming in a greater gusto from the U.S. side. We are not just seeing these 25% tariffs, but the 25% steel and aluminum tariffs have already been announced, right, and 10% tariff on energy products. Now, energy was Canada's biggest leverage because the energy export from Canada to the US is very critical for the US, and much of the refineries in the US are designed only to clean or refine crude oil coming from Canada. So how is that going to be impacted? All this will be seen in the next few weeks. It will be clear. But let me tell you, Parmeshwar, that what we are seeing in Canada at the moment is a response that is rarely seen in this part of the world. Canada loves the United States and loves the people in the US, but we have seen stamps of Buy Canadian all over Canadian stores. So clearly, Canadian people are also bracing up for the situation. They've canceled their trips to the US, many of them. So they are looking at taking on Donald Trump altogether.
Maha, thanks so much, as always, for joining us with the lowdown. In fact, critics have warned that the Trump tariffs ultimately will lead to higher prices for US consumers, as Maha Siddiqui is indicating. But it seems they remain Trump's favorite way to flex America's muscle against its adversaries and allies alike. Meanwhile, let's turn our attention to the other big story that NDTV has been tracking and campaigning about. Tanaji Shinde, whose daughter Neelam is fighting for her life after an accident in the United States, visited her at the hospital in California where she is being treated. This is what her family has confirmed. In fact, Neelam's father flew from Mumbai to the US on the 2nd of March and immediately after landing there rushed to the UC Davis Medical Center near Sacramento in California. This is what Neelam's uncle has confirmed. But as we speak, Neelam Shinde is in a coma in a hospital in the United States. She's battling for her life, and there is a key meet with US doctors today. We will, of course, track the latest developments and get you this update as soon as we have it. Well, let's switch tracks now. India has slammed the unfounded and baseless comments made by the UN's human rights chief, who mentioned Kashmir and Manipur in his global update, with Delhi voicing concern over the update's generalized remarks and cherry-picking of situations. The permanent representative of India to the United Nations and other international organizations in Geneva, Ambassador Arindam Bagchi, said, "As India was mentioned by name, let me begin by emphasizing that the world's largest democracy continues to be a healthy, vibrant, and pluralistic society." In fact, Mr. Bagchi added, "Unfounded and baseless comments in the update contrast jarringly with ground realities." Listen in to India's strong retort.
As India was mentioned by name, let me begin by emphasizing that the world's largest democracy continues to be a healthy, vibrant, and pluralistic society. Unfounded and baseless comments in the update contrast jarringly with ground realities. The people of India have repeatedly proven wrong such misplaced concerns about us. We would urge a better understanding of India and our civilizational ethos of diversity and openness, which continue to define our robust and often cacophonous civic space. Nothing illustrates this divergence more than the passing reference to Jammu and Kashmir, erroneously referred to as Kashmir, ironically in a year that stood out for that region's improving peace and inclusive progress, be it the large turnout provincial elections, the booming tourism, or the rapid development pace.
Well, in other news, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal embarked on an unscheduled visit to the United States to initiate negotiations for the bilateral trade agreement, which our two countries aim to sign by the end of this year. Now, during his week-long visit, Mr. Goyal is likely to formally start the negotiations on this bilateral trade agreement, which was announced during Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US in mid-February. Subsequently, the negotiation will be taken forward by officials of the two sides, is what we're told. My colleague Himanshu Mishra joins us live from New Delhi at the moment with an update on Piyush Goyal's plan of action. Himanshu, take us through Piyush Goyal's plan in America amid Donald Trump's intensifying pitch for the imposition of reciprocal tariffs.
That's right. India has concerns, and President Trump, in fact, has been very categorical on the issue of tariffs. And India has made its own assessments in terms of how it is likely to have an impact on India's own interests, especially in the agriculture sector. Sources have told us that basically there are two broad agenda of Piyush Goyal's visit to the US. One, of course, is to put forth India's own stand when it comes to the issue of reciprocal tariffs. India is going to assert before the Trump administration that there are very important critical sectors where already the duties are very, very low. And so India, of course, doesn't want the US to impose those tough reciprocal tariffs on its own products. Second, of course, is to boost the bilateral agenda. As you remember, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a very important meeting with President Trump, there was an agreement to double the bilateral trade to $500 billion. And as part of that agreement, there was also an understanding and an agreement between the two leaders that India and US should put in place a new bilateral trade agreement by the fall of 2025. Now, as part of this larger decision and directive by both the leaders, the initial round of talks will be initiated by Piyush Goyal in terms of what should be the contours of this new bilateral trade agreement between India and US. And as the joint statement said, it very categorically said that the negotiations will start for the first tranche of this agreement. So Piyush Goyal's visit needs to be seen in this context. Parmeshwar.
As always, Himanshu, thank you so much for joining us with the lowdown. Well, meanwhile, continuing with New Delhi's Europe outreach, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar will visit the United Kingdom and Ireland starting today until the 9th of March. This visit comes days after India and the European Union outlined an ambitious partnership roadmap after Prime Minister Modi's meeting with the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and her delegation, including year-end free trade agreement deadline, expanded tech cooperation and enhanced defence and security partnership. Though not part of the EU, India and the UK share a comprehensive strategic partnership, and during this visit, Dr. Jaishankar will meet Foreign Secretary David Lammy in the UK and other leaders, besides meeting the Indian community members too. We're told Dr. Jaishankar will then travel to Ireland from the 6th of March until the 7th, where he will meet Irish Foreign Minister Simon Harris, other dignitaries and representatives of the Indian community as well. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali has been tracking Dr. Jaishankar's movements. He's with us for a quick update on the matter too. Ghazali, continuing with New Delhi's Europe outreach, Dr. Jaishankar will now be in the UK and Ireland. Any key highlights we're expecting?
See, as you rightly pointed out, it should be a follow-up of the FTA for sure, because this is what Indian Trade and Commerce Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal and his counterpart Ronald Jonathan had met last week, and they announced that how India and UK are going to resume the FTA, which had been installed for some time. Besides FTA, there certainly would be, we have observed that how West is trying to go India after this reciprocal tariff or the tariff threat coming out of the White House last month. And after that, you would have seen that how the EU Commission President traveled to India, spoke about trade ties. Then you had the Belgium Economic Commission over here. They're also talking about improving ties with India. And that is why this visit is also seen in the same light, that how even United Kingdom is also looking at India as a big market. And as we know that as per most estimates, by 2030, India would be the third largest economy. So considering the fact that in India, if you see in this particular term of Prime Minister Modi, in this 3.0, or what we call the third term of NDA, wherever India's foreign minister or the Prime Minister is traveling, the focus is on improving trade ties. So even in this particular trade, be it UK or the Ireland, the External Affairs Minister is obviously going to talk about the relevant geopolitical issues, but certainly trade would be an important component of this discussion.
Ghazali, as always, thanks so much for joining us with that crucial update. Well, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh met Princess Astrid of Belgium and Belgian Defence Minister Theo Franken to discuss potential defence cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. Meanwhile, the Belgian delegation also held talks with our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, focusing on semiconductors, artificial intelligence, clean energy, research and innovation. Lots of diplomatic moves being made. Dr. Jaishankar is going to be heading to the UK and Ireland, as Ghazali was reporting. Mr. Piyush Goyal is in Washington at the moment. negotiating as far as the trade front is concerned. Take a look at all the highlights as far as New Delhi is concerned.
A week after India and UK announced resumption of talks on FTA, the External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar is scheduled to visit UK and Ireland this week to strengthen diplomatic and trade ties. India and the UK share a comprehensive strategic partnership covering defence, security, trade, health and education. The visit is expected to reinforce these collaborations and advance shared priorities.
जो तेजी इस 2 दिवसीय चर्चाओं में देखने को मिली है, हम दोनों को लगता है कि आगे चल के भारत और यूनाइटेड किंगडम के बीच हमारे संबंध, हमारे व्यापार के संभावनाओं को हम बड़े रूप में आगे लेके जा सकते हैं.
Amid changing geopolitical situation and the threat of tariffs by US, the West is now looking for more reliable trade partners in India. Monday saw the Belgian economic mission led by Princess Astrid and accompanied with over 350 business and industry leaders from Belgium arrive in India.
Today has the possibility of growing in a more contemporary format. We are discussing semiconductors and AI and clean energy and research and innovation.
Princess Astrid also called on Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, accompanied by Defence Minister of Belgium.
Really also focusing on strategic sectors, the sectors of the future, renewable energy, life sciences, space, defense, eco-construction. So that will be really the focus, and we're bringing top-notch companies that are already present here, but also companies that are coming for the first time to India.
Last week, EU Commission President was in India with all 12 EU commissioners. Von der Leyen confirmed that the free trade agreement between India and EU will be formalized by the end of this year.
Finalize our free trade agreement before the end of the year. We're expecting a lot of our trade negotiators. We told them they should surprise us.
Meanwhile, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is in the United States with a doubling trade by 2030 mission. Two significant wars in Europe and the Middle East have not only amplified geopolitical tensions, but also destabilized global energy supplies and food security. Post the COVID-19 pandemic, India under PM Modi's leadership has emerged as the choice of many over China, offering much-needed stability. With Mohammad Ghazali, Bureau Report, NDTV.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the
Well, Arab leaders are touching down in Egypt to attend an emergency Arab summit on the war-torn Gaza Strip. In fact, the Iraqi state news agency INA said President Abdul Latif Rashid arrived in Egyptian capital Cairo to attend today's summit to discuss developments in Gaza and the West Bank. Bahrain King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa is also said to be in Cairo to attend this summit. This is what Bahraini news agency BNA has said. In fact, Kuwaiti Crown Prince Sabah Al Khalid Al Sabah will also fly to Cairo today to lead his country's delegation to the summit. And Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara is also expected to lead Syria's delegation to this emergency summit. With that, let's turn our attention now to Japan. Well, Japan is fighting an extensive forest fire in the north, which has damaged dozens of homes and forced hundreds of residents to evacuate, but still has not come under control, as you can see on your screens. Japan has deployed more than 2,000 firefighters to battle the country's biggest forest fire in 3 decades, and at least one person has died. But this flame has torched about 5,200 acres. And like many other countries, Japan in 2024 recorded its hottest year since records began. Well, the Champions Trophy 2025 is now onto its final stages, and India remains the only team to be undefeated in the league stages of the tournament. So all eyes are on the marquee clash between India and Australia in Dubai today. Thanks so much for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. We're slipping into a very short break for now.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond.
A very good morning. You're watching The Breakfast Show here on NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vaza. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including Donald Trump that has put a pause when it comes to military aid to Ukraine. This is a fallout after that meeting that took place at the Oval Office between the two presidents. We'll get you all the details. First, let's get you the headlines.